You want to just share you share on your book Bullied Behind Bars. What was the reason you wanted to share the memoir of your past?
I don't want to have anybody go through what I went through. I was placed in solitary confinement, spent a lot of time alone, and I wanted to share my story.
You mentioned how you were a past supporter. Do you ever worry about being judged for like your past mistakes and stuff like that?
I get judged every single day by my past mistakes.
What was the moment you changed?
In August 2015, I was driving on 495 in the middle lane going 72 miles an hour, which is fairly slow for me, when a Lexus SUV came the other direction, came down an embankment, crossed in front of my car. But by the grace of God, I was saved, I was protected. And that was the moment that I turned my life over to God and started doing His will rather than my own will.
I thought you grew up as a Christian. What were you not?
I was a lukewarm Christian. I was going to church on Sunday, but every other day of the week, I was doing my own will. I was lying, I was cheating, I was stealing, I was manipulating people to do what I wanted to do. And then I also had a lot of unresolved anger, resentment, hatred that I hadn't resolved.
So you were kind of just you were kind of playing pretend, and none of the rest. It was just whatever we wanted to do at that point.
I was wearing masks, which a lot of people do, pretending everything was all right, but deep inside, I was a ticking time bomb.
Do you think that is a problem?
It's a huge problem in this world. Wearing face masks hurts everyone. It's masking real deep emotions, pretending that everything's okay. And when you're really deep down hurting,
Kind of speaking on your prison, like what was it like in prison? If you could expand on that.
I was bullied behind bars. I was raped. I was assaulted. I was targeted because I was different. I was autistic. I didn't fit in. I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. There were mental health units in prison. Unfortunately, a lot of the mental health units are sex offender protection units. I ended up getting labeled a sex offender when that is absolutely the farthest from the truth.
What was your first day in prison like?
It was scary. I was strip searched. I had no rights. I was given a mattress, and I slept on a hard concrete floor.
Whenever like you're watching a movie about like going to jail or something like going to jail or something and resemblance to that, it's always like you're gonna have a hard time no matter what, and that's kind of what you just explained here. But like, is that do you think that is true? Just everybody's gonna have a hard time, or like, how did you get through that?
I got through my experience by journaling. Also, I started a very strict discipline of making my bed every day, praying, reading my Bible, fasting, and exercising. All of those disciplines have helped me to become the strong Christian man I am today.
So keeping yourself like active and like not really focusing on what's in the moment kind of helped like at least keep yourself out of the idea of like what you're really in.
Idle mind is a devil's playground. When David and Eve sinned in the Bible, it was because they were idle. Eve should have been with Adam. David should have been out working in the field. When we sin, most times it's because we are idle.
I'm talking on your book, like how long is it? Like what's the general like is it more like a memoir, or like what's the general premise of it, if you wouldn't mind explaining?
It's a memoir of my life growing up in Tingsboro, Massachusetts, being bullied because I was overweight, the theft of the car. When I worked at a car dealership in 2004, they didn't pay me my commissions. I impulsively chose to try to sell one of their cars, got caught. Instead of going through the mental health court, Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria, even though I had done work with Bob Wolford, a mental health counselor, for years. As a result, I went through the traditional court, came out with a record, couldn't pass a background check, In 2009, I used other people's information to work. I did the work, but I used their information to pass that background check. The government pursued me for 6 years, finally got a grand jury indictment against me in 2016. I spent another 18 months in prison. That's where I wrote my book, Bullied Behind Bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison.
Was it more your family, like that kind? Because it feels like family is kind of what gains a person like their beliefs in life most of the time and stuff. Like, is that where you gained your Trump beliefs and like and MAGA and all that, or like how did that like where in the moment, where in like life did you actually gain that mentality?
I left the Democratic Party, volunteered for Trump in the summer of 2016, knocking doors in New Hampshire, really loved the atmosphere, enjoyed talking to people. That's where I changed my beliefs and started following God, being a Christian, and doing God's will instead of my own will.
So it wasn't your family that was a Trump believer.
My father is a Republican. My mother's a staunch Democrat.
You mentioned how politics were like a big part of your childhood. Father, you just mentioned was a Republican. You got bullied pretty often. What, if you wouldn't mind, like, what was your childhood like?
I had a loving family, but my entire family are stoics. Suck it up, buttercup, stuff your emotions, men don't cry. Look at what happened. Because I hadn't resolved all of my anger, frustration, hatred, in a way, when I stole the car, I was saying I'm no longer going to be taken advantage of anymore. I did it completely the wrong way. But even today, I had a recent experience working for an employer where I've been consistently abused by a female owner. And look, that doesn't fit the narrative in this country. It's always the woman who's the victim in this country. But a lot of men are abused not only in their romantic relationship. I was abused every single day by a female owner.
Going back with the car thing, would you do it in a different scenario, or you just like, or would you like completely not do it? Like you learn your lesson.
I have completely learned my lesson. I know now that I should never have ever worked in a car dealership. And for my sanity, I will never work at a car dealership because that is a trigger for me. If you or one of your listeners has had an addiction in the past, do not put yourself in a precarious situation. What do I mean by that? If you struggle with lust, going to a gym or going to Hawaii is not in your best interest. I had a past of theft at a car dealership. I know that I should never, ever work at a car dealership because that may come back to bite me again. Because I have autism, I'm on the Asperger's spectrum, that impulsivity never goes away. It's still there. The difference today is I have better tools to deal with that.
Would you mind if I ask, like, what does lust mean?
Lust is looking at a man or a woman in a sexual fashion.
You say you weren't really close to your parents at all, really. Did they react in any way, like when they found out, or like did they just not did they not care?
When they found out that I was gay, is that what you're asking?
Yes, that and like, but like when you got in jail and you kind of went on to your road to prison.
I brought a lot of shame to the family. My name was in the newspaper. These news organizations really went after me.
Was the other side story yours, or was it just more to the public that was the side shown?
It was the news organizations were trying to get attention, and they twisted all of the facts. They didn't have all the facts. They only chose to publish the facts that suited the narrative of a former corrupt police chief, Aaron Noble, who's no longer the chief of police anymore.
With being gay, with the snippets of the book that I was able to read, I read that like you're bullied pretty heavily by every neighbor, and like you said, you're gay, so that's probably gonna have an impact on your life. What was that like growing up, if you would mind me asking?
It was very challenging, finding friends, making friends. being autistic only added to the difficulty in my life. The difficulty still exists today. It's very challenging to find relationships with both men and women that are authentic. A lot of men and women put on face masks and pretend to be somebody that they're really not. And I am 100% authentic, direct, honest. What you see is what you get, whether I'm in the workplace or whether you see me on the street. I am no different. But I know a lot of people are one way at work, one way at home, and one way out in the real world.
Like a raw personality, basically.
Yes, and the only person in the end that hurts is themselves.
Did you develop yours?
It was in childhood. My family was very stoic. We were taught to stuff our emotions. Men don't cry.
Did that also kind of go with like the childhood bullying and whatnot? Like I imagine that like I said originally, like probably you being gay probably affected that, or like maybe people were just being assholes and they just kind of took it out of you for no reason because you were small or something like that.
I wasn't small. I was overweight. That was one of the big reasons I was made fun of. And I've lost 100 pounds and I've never once set foot in a gym. If you have a goal, you can do it. You don't need an institution to help you get to a goal. That discipline that I developed in prison helped me to lose 100 pounds. It's all about the diet. If you're not eating healthy and you're going to a gym, you're spinning tires.
What was like getting out of prison?
It was hard getting out. However, I wasn't in prison for very long, so it was an easier transition than if I was in prison for several years.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You said that your beliefs were changed within. Like, how did the view? Like, what was your your beliefs and everything? Like, how did the world look when you got out?
The world never changed. I changed. I became a stronger, confident man who had let go of all that anger, stress, resentment, hatred. I had started loving myself, forgiving others, forgiving myself. And then that was freeing for me. Then I was able to live a more authentic life.
When did you decide that this memoir and like your life story was like most important? Was it just going to the beginning, like you wanted to share like your share and make sure nobody else goes through what you went through, or what was that? What was the reason for that?
That was one reason. I also wanted to show young people who are engaging in small level crimes, whether it's marijuana use or small level thefts, if that is not dealt with properly, it will accelerate. That's what happened in my experience. I started off with low level thefts, and because it wasn't dealt with properly, it accelerated.
How long is your novel? Because like I went to look at on Amazon and I could only find little snippets, but I could tell from like it seemed more like a chapter book if I had to guess.
It is. It's 100 and I believe 31 pages.
How long did it take you to publish it?
6 years.
6 years? Okay, so you had time to at least think it out and storyboard all every key moment to your life, pretty much.
Yes, and I will also say that I wrote tens of thousands of pages. I had to consolidate it down to the highlights because my name isn't Stephen King. I can't write a 1,000-page book and expect people that are going to buy it.
With it being, but like with it being your life, would that not like? I get what you mean. Of course, obviously, you gotta go to the audience to, but like, with it being your life, would you not just want to put it out and like people can buy it or not buy it?
I wanted to highlight my life in a consolidated version.
With it being 10 years ago, would you ever add anything else? Like, would you ever adapt it to maybe like adding on to the years, maybe eventually?
I get asked all the time if I'm going to write another book. The answer is I don't know. It's a lot of work. It's blood, sweat, and tears. And the likelihood of being successful is a hard road to path.
How's the book turned out, the audience? You've been on a few shows so far, at least.
I've been on over 150 podcasts. Sales are very slow. I think people struggle with how buying my book will change their life. And instead of going out and reading my book, they make a judgment call because they are looking for something that's going to solve all their problems. And my book isn't going to solve all their problems. I encourage people to read my book because I was in a physical prison, but the institution didn't have my mind. I know a lot of people are living in a mental health prison, which is 10 times worse.
Thank you for coming on my show. I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving up your time, and it was lovely meeting you. But we should totally do this again if you have ever any more topics or anything that you want us to discuss on.
Yeah, my book is called Bullied Behind Bars. A gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. I'm on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars, X, Bars Bullied, Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621. If your viewers buy my book, I will autograph it for them for free. If you want to talk to me, email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. If you or somebody you know is going through a difficult time, reach out to me. I'd love to help you in any capacity that I can.